Divine love is growing in us. This tide of grace is bringing us back home. The long, long search is ending now. So many of us waiting. We're finding our way home somehow. All the old ways are changing. Divine hands are clearing our path. Divine flames glow brightly in the dark. Divine love is growing in our hearts. This tide of grace is bringing us back home. Divine hands are clearing our path. Divine flames glow brightly in the dark. Divine love is growing in us. This tide of grace is bringing us back home. We have walked courageously and searched so long for meaning. Now it's time to let grace be in charge of new beginnings. Divine hands are clearing our path. Divine flames glow brightly in the dark. Divine love is growing in us. This tide of grace is bringing us back home. Divine hands are clearing our path. Divine flames glow brightly in the dark. Divine love is growing in us. This tide of grace is bringing us back home. is nothing to be. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to fear. There is only this moment. All desires of tomorrow have vanished, and all the blames of yesterday do not exist. Today is all there is. This moment. Life is what it is.
Namaste
Namaste, welcome.
to our weekly global online satsang. Getting used to some new technology here, and unfortunately, the chat does not seem to be visible on our end, and I assume it's not on yours either. And currently I can't find a way to open the chat. So, should you want to chat or have questions you'd like answered, I would encourage you to go to Facebook Live, which would be facebook.com/rev.dr.Milner.
Should be in the description too of the webcast for tonight.
Not there, it won't be, I don't think. Anyway, should be, could be, wanna be, ain't there. So this is a little odd tonight. I will try to get that fixed by next week. It's a challenge to be both sitting here and transmitting and trying to run the technology at the same time. And settings have been getting changed on things from one week to the next, and I don't see them till I go live. Anyway, so here we are. Satsang means spiritual community. I'm beginning by sharing my trials with you tonight. And part of the purpose of spiritual community is to share our strength with one another. What unites us on the flowering heart path is that we're experiencing the flowering of our hearts, which is a beautiful thing, and awakening into higher states of consciousness. All of this requires that we join together with others on the journey. As I said before, to share not just our struggles but our victories, and to join the strength and the inner silence and the peace that each of us is building on the inside. When we come together and join together like this, the sense of peace and presence is so deepened and empowered. We're also sending to you throughout the satsang the Flowering Heart Blessing, which is a direct transmission of divine grace, presence, spiritual consciousness, directly from Source. Very powerful transmission that awakens the spiritual energies inside of you, that catalyzes the divine spark that dwells at the center of your heart and causes it to begin to shine and expand and radiate from the inside out, dissolving the veils of separation and the blocks to awakening, God realization, and spiritual transformation. And this particular kind of blessing comes directly from the divine source. It doesn't pass through any particular spiritual organization or belief system or religion or hierarchy or any single master or avatar. It comes directly from the divine, and hence it will support whatever path you're on, be it Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, pagan, or whatever. And when you receive the Flowering Heart Blessing, which you are right now, you're being saturated in it. And please, anyone who's a blessing giver, even if it's another kind of divine blessing for awakening in the flowering of the heart, you're welcome to join us. And as you're basking in the Flowering Heart Blessing, you're being activated and initiated to be able to share this with others, either through gently laying on of hands or at a distance by intention and prayer or meditation. And anyone that you share this blessing with is empowered to pass it on themselves. So welcome, enjoy, and please share. Please share this blessing with everyone you can. It's absolutely free, the blessing. And the Divine is giving it as a gift to help the largest number of people awaken and transform and flower as quickly as possible. And that's really amazing thing. So there are many other forms of blessing and transmission of divine energy at work on the planet now, and all the ones I've encountered are very beautiful. This one is fairly unique in the sense that there's no costly initiation, and again, it's free of the oversight or the regulation of any belief system or spiritual tradition or organization. And so that does make it kind of special. And these broadcasts, these webcast satsangs are pretty special too. We encourage you to bring whatever questions you might have about the spiritual path that you're on, or about the path in general of the flowering of the heart, spiritual awakening, God realization. And we'd like to be able to answer those questions for you and also shed light on some of the things you might be experiencing that you're unsure about or struggles you might be having on your path. And it helps everybody when you share those. Later on, we'll be sharing together in a very focused way flowering heart blessings for whatever needs you brought with you here tonight, and taking an intent that the Divine will release tremendously powerful, life-changing, and miraculous graces for everyone here tonight. And we'll be finishing with an open eye light blessing, which we'll address when we get to it. So I see we already have a question here, and
I go down on the bottom. Are there any others?
okay? All right. So, Michael asks, so what about having no passion? I see many people with exuberance, with a certain something, but I'm even more keeled. Not sure if that's okay or not. I'm not sure what you mean by you're keeled. You might
Even
want,
keeled?
or keeled over, or I don't know what that means.
Even keeled, not so gung-ho and passionate. It's more...
Well, that's not an even keel. You can be in a sailboat race. You need to be keeled, and you need to be absolutely passionate about winning that race. So, you would need to explain what you mean by keeled. But in addressing the subject of passion, passion is a desire that is so strong, so energized, so powerful that it cannot be denied. Sometimes it's said that you might only have one or two genuine passions in your life. And as an example of passion, often it's pointed to the love, the almost ferocious love of a mother for her children. That's a kind of passionate desire. We have thousands of desires that come and go. I'd like to be successful. I'd like to be more aware. I'd like to be enlightened. I'd like to be a good person. I'd like to be more physically fit. I'd like to read more. I'd like to increase my income. I mean, there are all these different desires that come and go. Hundreds, perhaps thousands flow through the mind every day. But there might be one or two that doesn't go away. It doesn't. And it defines the course of your life. Passion is critically important for major creative achievements. Great artists aren't just people with a gift, they have a passion to create. Successful people generally have a passion about the path that they're on and the goal that they've set themselves to achieve. And when we unite passion with consistent right effort in the direction of attaining our goal, and assuming that goal is in line with the divine will, with the grace flowing from the divine source, we can invoke grace. We can ask the divine to grace our passionate efforts toward a goal in our life. And we can see tremendous miracles open up, and things that we thought were impossible become possible. But it's great that you asked that question about passion, and you do right, even-keeled. I wouldn't describe passionate, creative geniuses as even-keeled. And yet again, that word, even-keeled, comes from boating. And if you're in a sailboat race, you have to be passionate, and you have to pull those sails in, and the boat's leaning way over. And I'm not even a great sailor. I know how to sail a little bit. But I know how the wind causes the boat to lean, and the sailors are all leaning out the other way. And there's tremendous effort involved to keep the boat even-keeled and not to keel over. When you keel over, you've stopped. So, but there's a difference between passion and fanaticism or excessive zeal. When people become fanatical about a goal, you can see it in the hardness that it tends to develop within them toward anything that gets in their way. I mean, genuine spiritual passion, and for legitimate goals in life that's being graced by the divine, also brings with it a certain tenderness of heart and an openness to how our actions and our achievements are affecting our relationships, the people closest to us, to our family. And I've seen friends of mine that have tremendous passion toward certain goals in life and watch them attain them in a healthy way. I've also seen people, and at certain points in my life I could see that happening, where I crossed the line into fanatical zeal, which means I'm going to press forward to that goal no matter how it affects the people around me. And so we've probably all seen, certainly we may have read books or seen movies about people who become so fixated on success that they run over their families and their children. And they lose everything that's important to them, and they realize in the end that that goal they were so fanatical about doesn't mean anything when you've lost all your friends and all your family, and your heart has become hardened. So that's one of the ways that you can distinguish legitimate passion for spiritual growth from religious fanaticism, which has, again, this harsh edge that makes dumb choices. I mean, sometimes what may appear to you and me as a dumb choice might be the right thing to do. I mean, Buddha renounced his wealth. He renounced his position as a prince in his society. And he went out into the jungle and out into nature to meditate and became the Buddha. I mean, arguably, you could say that, well, that guy was fanatical. No, he was passionate. And there's a fine line, and sometimes it's difficult to judge, especially when you're the one who's so impassioned, about whether you're going about attaining your goal in a way that's actually balanced. Is it right effort, or is it excessive effort? We need to make some effort toward our goal, definitely. And spiritual grace will reward our efforts, but we can push too hard. And then it's all ego. And all that pushing from the hardness of the separate self and the ego, which is all self-centered, is ultimately doomed to not bring about good and auspicious results. Whereas we can be very passionately exerting effort in the right direction that is correct and balanced. And that's where it's good to have a community. Because the community, a healthy community, will give you reflections. But especially a good spiritual teacher, a wise spiritual teacher, or a spiritual director, or a spiritual counselor or guide that you can meet with and share what's going on in your life, can help you see whether you're being lazy or making the right amount of effort, or you're pushing too hard and you're getting over into the area of ego, because we have to flow in harmony with the Tao or with the divine plan unfolding in its own time. So the subject of passion is a great one, and it's one that if we spent all evening on that, we couldn't really address all the angles, but it's great that you brought it up, and I hope that shared some beginning insights.
I'd like to add something too. Not everybody has a passion in life. Everybody's got their different reasons for incarnating at this time. And, you know, there are people that just go about their lives and experience life in their bodies and with relationships, and, you know, dive into some spirituality and go to, you know, have their jobs and their families, and they're content with that, and there's nothing wrong with that either. If you want to have more passion, there are some things that you could look at. You could do some inner processing and inner work with maybe the part of yourself that might have low self-esteem, or has programs or charges or beliefs that say, I can't do this, or I'm nobody, I'm not worthy of taking on a big project or being passionate about whatever endeavor you might even be dabbling or looking at. So there could be some inner work that needs to be done if you're feeling like you would like to be more passionate at looking at your inner world and, you know, really going within and asking for grace to help you become more aware and conscious of those areas that might be blocking your growth in that area.
Yep.
Yep.
It's true.
The flip side to fanaticism.
Well, and it's true that we can work toward things and achieve things that we're not passionate about. It's true. But it's often perceived that great achievements are often have the fire, the creative fire of passion, which is this strong desire that sort of sets the direction for your life. And it's true that some people don't have any passion, and there's no judgment there.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing to have, especially when we're talking, if your goal was to become fully enlightened or God realized or something, that kind of lofty goal requires tremendous passion, actually. It's not just usually. And then I always think of loophole Eckhart Tolle. He wasn't passionate about anything, he was quite depressed, and he woke up enlightened. But that's not the typical pattern. There are exceptions to any rule. There are people that don't work for things, it just falls on them. They just stopped at the convenience store, thought I'll just pick up a lottery ticket, and boom, overnight they're multi-millionaires. They didn't work for it, they didn't do anything for it except buy that lottery ticket. Now, if you decide to make that the pattern you're going to imitate, you're not very likely to become wealthy. But if you set about to obtain wealth for the right motives and employing the right methods to get there, you're much more likely than if you're going to the casino and playing the roulette wheel, for instance. So they're different. This universe is wired in such a way that we can't absolutely say, if you want to be enlightened, you need to meditate. It's true, you don't. And I could point to a number of examples of people that got fully God realized or fully enlightened, or their hearts just completely opened to the light of God or the divine, who didn't really do the typical things. But we could point to many more who do. And I'm reminded again of a great contemporary Zen master who says, it's true that enlightenment is an accident. It's not something we can scientifically produce. But being engaged in spiritual practice makes you accident prone. The lightning of transformation is more likely to strike you if you're stretching upward in a yoga pose, you know, than if you're not doing anything to pursue growth or to work toward growth. And that's true in any area of life, you know.
That's another reason why we focus so much on our teachings and our courses, and reminding people that the hardest but the most rewarding and the most fruitful part of the spiritual path is doing the inner work. We are our own biggest obstacles to pretty much everything. Our charges and our programs, our beliefs have limited us from receiving everything that is paradise right here, right now, and keeps us locked in a holding pattern. So if you keep doing your inner work and your spiritual processes, we've got over 30 courses online, and they've all got different nuances. I've been counseling one woman, a very beautiful soul, and she started with one course, and then she moved on to the next one as she saw a deeper level to the issues that she was dealing with, and they've been very, very helpful for her. Once we have the tools to work on the inner world, then our outer world will start to change, and we'll be more free to actually feel passion, to feel joy, to feel compassion, and have a new set foundation and framework that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't done the hard work of healing the inner world.
Here's one, probably for you. Incidentally, hello, Paul there in Philadelphia. Been a while. Nice to see you out there. See your name pop up every once in a while and think about you. Okay, Carla writes, "Thank you for your words, madam." So I know this probably isn't directed toward me. "I have no self-esteem. And then some spiritual guide told me, you don't have enough faith. Are self-esteem and faith going together?" Yeah, well, not necessarily. I mean, it's easier to have faith if you have some self-esteem. You can have faith without any self-esteem. There are a lot of people in different faith traditions who have strong faith and very low self-esteem. I know many of my Christian friends over the years have been like that, very sin-conscious and feeling that they're great failures and great sinners, and have a strong faith in the divine that even brings miracles into their lives. But let me just say this, if you don't have high self-esteem, it's totally not helpful to say to you, you don't have enough faith.
Right.
And another thing, if you don't have enough faith, it's of no help to you whatsoever for me to point a finger and say you don't have enough faith. I mean, it's like somebody who's starving and you go, you don't have enough food. You know, it's ridiculous. Okay.
You would teach them how to get food, just like you would teach them how to get faith.
Exactly. So faith is very important because it gives us a connection, or the ability to connect to source outside of the mind. The mind is where all this trouble is of low self-esteem, and I've dealt with it, you know, throughout my life. I'm rubbing my head. I mean, I had a very critical parent in my home that sort of, it was deeply entrenched in me, this self-judgment and self-loathing and low self-esteem. And it took a lot. I was going to say it took a lot of work. That's not the way it works, though, you see. Low self-esteem is part of the human condition. We all have it to some degree. We all feel like we're not good enough to be loved, not good enough to be fully in the light and in the flow of all of our gifts and potential. And what helps us is to experience the unconditional, infinite love of the source, of the divine being that is the source of this universe, however you conceive of it. I mean, the conception of it is so vastly varied. A Buddhist conceives of it as like emptiness, and a Christian might conceive of it as indescribable light. And they're describing the exact same thing, but the mind can't wrap around the source of existence. What we do know, and all the great mystics seem to confirm this, that the source of the universe is unconditional love, is pure compassion. And it's other things as well. It's pure light and wisdom and knowledge and all of that. But because of our low self-esteem, it's very difficult to open up to that light. And most of the time we've felt like the divine either isn't there at all or is holding us at a distance because we're so unworthy. And actually it's nothing like that. It's just the mind getting in the way. And when we can slip out of the mind into the heart, and that's where faith helps, but when we get there, then we begin to experience this infinite, all-knowing being that knows us better than we know ourselves, to have come to this self-judgment and low self-esteem. And we experience this love that is mind-blowing, and that begins to melt away this low self-esteem and self-judgment. And we begin to experience, and I can't explain how, it's just a gift of basking in this infinite love, we begin to experience peace and self-love. And then we can begin to love other people. But you gotta, I mean, we need help first. And so you nailed it. I mean, in asking about low self-esteem and what to do, it's not any fault of your own. We were born into a species in a world where low self-esteem is just going around. And to try to overcome it, people engage in all this unhealthy egotism and inflated, me. And the real way out is to experience this unconditional love of the divine. And when you experience that, faith begins to arise naturally. Wow, there's something else happening in this universe than I was perceiving. Faith also grows when people share their experiences with us. Like as I'm sharing with you my experience of the divine presence loving me and melting away my self-hatred and my low self-esteem, somehow a little bit of that gets contaged into you. So faith comes not by me saying, you don't have enough faith, that's what's wrong with you, to me saying, of course, none of us, we could all use more. And so we share our miracles, and also by feeding on the teachings of great beings, whether you believe in Jesus or you're of an Eastern tradition, or there are many, many great illumined beings who have penned their words and passed them on, and they build faith. They just build you up inside and cause your heart to come open to higher truths. So I know I'm not mad at him, and I'll get out of the way now. But I just really wanted to share with you.
Some ways to increase your faith is spending some time with your divine each day and creating a relationship. And that relationship means total honesty. If you've ever been mad at the divine presence in any way, you felt abandoned, you didn't feel supported, any of these things, it should be an open dialogue between you and your divine, and just be really, really honest, because the divine loves us unconditionally. It's us that put up the roadblocks because we've been hurt. And when we've been hurt, we react. We react in ways that aren't coming from the heart. They're coming from the mind, which causes low self-esteem. It's chaos and conflict, and the heart is all about peace and love and calm and clarity. So the more that you could spend time each day connecting with your divine and being really honest with it, and start a dialogue like a friendship, and just deepen and deepen and deepen that. Take some time to pray every day and connect with whatever you feel is the most powerful and loving and comfortable for you. And when we first started doing this, I had a lot of baggage and concepts about God, the word God, and so we were leading people through this process of how to connect with the divine presence. And what popped in for me as the divine presence was SpongeBob. And I really enjoyed watching SpongeBob, and I would hear these little enlightened things while the kids were watching it in the background. So for me it was like, I didn't have any programming or anything negative about a cartoon character, and I could connect and speak openly with it because it was fun and loving and playful. So it doesn't have to be anything serious. If you have any baggage about some concept of the divine, understand that, because if you're feeling like your divine is judgmental or punishing or is going to be holding something back until you're good enough, or you have to do enough good deeds to ask for your prayers to be answered, all of these things tie into our self-esteem and our faith and our connection with the divine presence. So just be really honest with your divine and start to develop a playful, loving, heartfelt relationship and see where that goes. Spend as much time a day as you have, or anytime you feel yourself slipping into the mind or feeling low self-esteem, slip back into your heart and ask for grace and ask the divine to fill you with its unconditional love and start to see the changes and transformation taking place.
Another thing that came to me while you were talking, and that was beautiful, and the heart of it, I think. The heart of it. But, and this might be for you, Carl, I don't know, but it would be for any of us, and that is to take note of the company we keep, the people we hang out with. Sometimes we don't have a lot of choice. I know when I was young and in a family where my self-esteem was being torn down, I couldn't do anything about that. But it's good to seek out friends and people that will build you up, that will build up your self-esteem instead of make you feel small. And sometimes even a place where you think you would be built up, it could be a spiritual group or a church. If you really take a look at it, there could be leaders whose egos are feeding on sort of keeping you squashed.
Control.
Yeah. But the point is to surround yourself with uplifting people who see you and encourage you to rise from the weight of low self-esteem into a real appreciation of what an amazing person you are. I mean, you are a sovereign, sentient, divine being in human flesh. I mean, very few people on this planet really realize it. So yeah, there's that. And Carla had written, since I was a child, I was experiencing divine love. I can tell you a lot of things, beautiful ones. Yes, maybe I'm not sharing enough. It is true, the more that you share the positive things in your life, notice the hand of God or the hand of your divine in small things in your life. When things go your way, just notice anything that goes your way during the day, notice there's the hand of the divine helping me, and express gratitude. And if it's really cool, if it's something really neat, like you thought of someone you haven't talked to in 3 years, and they call you, and they were feeling you and thinking about you. I mean, that's very cool, and you can see the hand of the divine and the synchronicity in that. Share that with other people, because that lifts their faith, and as you share it, you're
reaffirming your faith.
Yeah, your faith grows in sharing, because a lot of times we experience very cool stuff, and because we don't dwell on it and think about it and talk about it, we actually are not, we don't realize that we have that faith in there until we begin to share it. So, and she continues, I'll do it. Thank you. Okay. Very, very nice. I have another question.
Okay. I was just saying the inner work is just really important, though. You know, to get to that part of yourself where the self-esteem is, we do have a course called Healing the Shadow and Your Disowned Selves. So there's a process that we guide you through where you can take your low self-esteem self, or your rejected self, or your not good enough self, and we reintegrate it back into our being, because we're always pushing away the stuff that we don't like about ourselves. And until we reintegrate those parts and bring them home with unconditional love, we keep continually being drawn to patterns and situations in our lives that reaffirm those things that we're trying to reject. So the real source is to bring it home.
Yep.
Yep.
And before we get to shadows, we have to start with charges and patterns and programs.
Right.
There's a whole flow to that.
Yeah.
And we're really out of time for questions and answers. But I was asked one yesterday, or yesterday by Nicholas, who's here, and didn't rewrite it. And I'm not going to say much about it, but he asked about the cross. What about the symbol of the cross? What's that about? Now, I didn't get to ask you yesterday, are you coming from like a Catholic point of view, a Christian point of view, a pagan point of view? Because the symbol of the cross, not with a body hanging on, just the simple cross, has been part of a number of spiritual traditions throughout time. And a cross is an intersection of two lines, so it can refer to many things. It can refer to the center point from which everything is radiating, like the spark at the center of your heart from which you are emanating, and the world is emanating from within you, or the universe as a whole emanated from that point of light in the mind of God, if you will, or in the heart of God. And
It's fine, we can talk about it on Wednesday.
I'm going to just say this about it, though. I'm going to finish this because we opened the can, and yeah, we can discuss it more. But it's a point of intersection that points to the center of things, and often it points to the intersection of human life,
The earth plane.
with the divine. That point of intersection between us in material existence and the divine light intersecting, and so that is the Paramatma, that's the God within, or it points to the Christ, which goes by many names, and it literally points to where human will is intersected by divine will, and the meeting point is the union of humanity and the divine. And that's where we're moving toward as a species. We're evolving into beings that are fully divine and fully human at the same time. We already are, but our bodies are still very dense, and they're in the process of evolving, brightening up to the point where eventually matter, being the flat line, and spirit, being the vertical line, are going to meet and be one. And in a sense they already are, but not for some of us as we're experiencing reality. That requires the flowering of our consciousness to a very high degree. And lost internet connection. I'm just going to, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I wonder where we lost it.
Where are we going?
Are those the comments down there?
No, no.
I didn't touch it.
No. And we're on.
Oh,
Fully
yay.
live.
Yay!
Why are you so much more cheerful? Okay. I don't understand. Yeah, we're having technical difficulties, so we were briefly bounced right offline. We'll get this all straightened out by next week, if all things go according to plan. Anyway, it's time to move on.
Right.
So,
I just want to throw in one thing. If you look at enlightenment, that's basically what the word means, is becoming more filled with light, becoming enlightenment. So, just wanted to throw that out there.
I know you did.
Okay.
So if you just close your eyes on the path to enlightenment, and just open yourself to your own heart, and just take a few slow, deep breaths and allow yourself to float gently down into the center of your being. And there in the center of your spiritual heart, know that there is a spark of divine light and being that contains the entire universe, dwelling within you. This divine being dwelling within you is all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful. It loves you more than you could possibly understand or appreciate. So just receive. Receive the flowering heart blessing, the blessing of your inner divine, flooding you with grace. To heal your broken heart, to melt away low self-esteem and fear, anger, to flood your heart with joy and peace and love. There's nothing for you to do but receive. This presence within you is all powerful, and it yearns to awaken you to the truth of how loved you are, of how powerful you are. To flood you with grace, to awaken the gifts and the abilities that are slumbering in you. Just allow and receive this divine radiance to burn through every veil, every block, to flood your heart with light, to flood your mind with understanding and insight, to flood your physical body with healing. There's no disease that this divine power at the center of your being cannot heal in the twinkling of an eye. Receive. This being wants to give you the experience of your oneness with itself. To lovingly take you into divine union in the very highest enlightened states of consciousness. Your job is just to let go and receive. Now, with your eyes still closed, you could visualize all the other people in this satsang, or someone in your life that really needs help. And reach forth your hands with your eyes closed, your palms open, facing forward. Invite this all-powerful, all-wise, all-knowing, supremely compassionate being dwelling in you to pour through you the flowering heart blessing to those people you're imagining before you. Loved ones in need or the other members of this satsang. Just invite grace to flow through you and just get out of the way and feel it. There's nothing for you to do. Just relax your hands down, palms turned upward, resting somewhere on your thighs. We're going to begin to share with you the open eye light meditation. During this process, the divine overshadows me and Suzanne, just takes over and begins to pour through us floods divine light, grace, and unconditional love. All you have to do is open your eyes when you're ready. Begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me, and just receive. The light radiating through our beings is pouring especially through our eyes. As you make eye contact, it shines through your eyes, melting all of the impediments and blocks and veils, and floods your heart with divine light, awakening the divine within you and the divine energies of transformation within you. There's nothing for you to do but allow it to be and just experience whatever happens. close your eyes for a few moments now and let this grace settle in you. You could continue in meditation with your eyes closed as long as it feels nice to you, or lie down nearby on your back in Shavasana, that is, with your eyes closed on your back, your arms loosely at your sides, your palms turned upward and open. Just dissolve in gratitude in the presence. We love you very much.
Love you very much.
All technical difficulties set aside, we love being with you on Monday nights, and we look forward to being with you, if not sooner, again next Monday evening.
Keep the great questions coming.
Yeah.
It's been really, really, I have no words right now, really wonderful.
Really great.
Really great.
Anyway, we love you. Namaste,
Much
which
love,
is
light, and blessings.
Sanskrit. Namaste means the divine in me recognizes and bows to the divine in you. Namaste. Love you so much.